breaking down plays every Sunday night. From the den we step to the bar we roll, analyzing film clips, how the story's told. Lions on the
Hello, One Pride. Welcome to episode 3 of Outside the Den, Inside the Barn. My name is Jake. I'm joined with my brother Josh, and Cousin Lyle's back. How you doing, Cousin Lyle?
Great to be here.
All right. Josh, doing good today?
Absolutely. We got another game ahead of us.
We do. Another game. As I said last episode, that next game ends, or previous game ends. Next game starts.
You want to redo that?
Nah. All right. Yeah, no
Works
problem.
and all. Let's roll.
Yeah. So, so I think we're going to jump right into it. We're going to talk a little bit about last week's game. Obviously, this episode started with a little bit of an acknowledgement. Lions safety Maurice Norris went down with a very scary injury. We do have an update since it is almost a full week later. Sounds like he is recovering. He's back in Michigan, probably doing some rehab as well. So it sounds like he's on the right track. Now, does that mean football's still on the table for him? We don't know yet, and I'm sure that's a discussion happening with him and his family and his inner circle. And once again, hopefully things work out for him and there's no outstanding or everlasting effects for him. So do you guys have any takes on that? I mean, we were all here at the barn. We watched it happen live before we actually talk about the game. So obviously that happened near the end. But do either of you have anything you want to say, Lyle? Any notes on it?
Just a surreal. I've never seen anything end like that, the way that it ended. I mean, even the Damar Hamlin stuff that happened with the Bills and the Bengals a couple years ago, it seemed like they were getting ready to play and they were going to go, but they never actually, I don't think they did, and then they called the game. In this one, the clock was rolling. They snapped the ball. The Falcons were on offense. They were just holding the ball and just waiting for the time to run out, and it lasted like that for 6 or 7 minutes until finally they got the call from New York and said, okay, just shut it down. So never seen anything like that, but just, the great thing about social media now is you get those immediate updates. So by the end, you already knew he had the feeling in his extremities and he was conscious and everything seemed to be trending right. And then, within a couple of days out of the hospital and back to Detroit. So it was really good news really quickly. I'm glad to hear about that.
Yep. Josh, anything to add?
Just it sounds like something sensitive happened. I don't know if you saw the Campbell presser where they asked him about it and he said, "Don't do that to me." So clearly something happened that he just doesn't want to talk about. So,
yeah, I think it's one of those things, right? People want to be respectful of the player, of the player's family. Kind of small white elephant in the room, right? Maurice Norris, not a star on this team, not really a household name, but regardless, I'm on social media. I'm chronically on social media, and I know for a fact him and Terrion Arnold have a very close relationship. When I went to the practice, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that defensive back room is very tight, very close knit. They hype each other up. It's a brotherhood back there. So regardless, their brother went down, and it's weird in sports media because they want to chase that story. They want to chase that headline. But, we talked about it at the start of the show, is that they're at the end of the day, they are human. And everybody on both sides was shook up by that. We're bringing up the Damar Hamlin thing, right? That was a game with playoff implications on the line. Both of those teams, I believe, were fighting for a playoff spot. And that obviously, them ending the game early, definitely had a major impact on however many games that season. Obviously, it affected a lot of fantasy football championships. And as somebody who's a big fan of fantasy football, I think most of us were cool with, we just don't want to see a player die on the field on primetime TV. It was a very cool thing that they did. I think a very respectful thing. I know that I mentioned before, I wouldn't want to go out if I saw that happen to a teammate of mine or even an opposing teammate. I'm very lucky to have gone through a full, essentially football career without any major injuries, so I'm very blessed for that. But at the end of the day, ultimately good news because he is alive. He is recovering. He is back in Michigan. But let's get into the rest of the game. So when that happened, it was quite literally 14 and a half minutes left in the fourth quarter, but there were 3 full quarters of Lions football played prior to that. The score, because it was kind of inconclusive, ended up being 17-10, Lions beating the Falcons by that. First thing I want to talk about is passing. So I made a little prediction, and I don't remember if it was recorded or not, if it was just a phone call we had, Josh, about Kyle Allen's performance. Safe to say both quarterbacks did not play well in that first preseason game against the Chargers. And unfortunately for Hendon Hooker, he went 7 for 10, 70% completion rate, not bad, but 38 yards. Couple of bad rushes on his end. He had 27 yards, some good rushes on that end, but overall didn't seem to play all that effectively, didn't really have a major impact on the game. And notably, how Dan Campbell has treated preseason games is that if there is a quarterback battle for second quarterback or emergency quarterback, they usually let them play out a full half. Kyle Allen was in near the end of that first half. So he took reps away from Hendon Hooker. I believe Hendon Hooker had a fumble, if I remember correctly.
2 of them, I think.
2 fumbles.
Yeah, that was the second fumble, and then he didn't play again after that.
So obviously, we are just people who scroll Twitter or X. I refuse to call it X, but Twitter, Facebook, ESPN. We watch on TV, so we don't know what's really going on in those in those player rooms, or in those the war room there at Allen Park. But at the end of the day, that can't be a good sign if you're pulling a guy who's supposed to play an entire half early. And immediately upon him leaving, Kyle Allen goes 80 yards and ends the drive with an immaculate catch by Isaac Coleslaw.
Mayotron?
Yeah, Mayotron. What was the other one?
Optimus Prime, because he's the reverse of Megatron on the numbers.
So exactly, that's true. So, but a couple other things. Do any of you guys want to talk about the quarterback situation? Because it is something brewing. And the whole point I brought up the Kyle Allen thing is I did in fact predict that he would have a much better performance this game, because it feels like generally from my years of watching football, if a player is at risk of being cut, right before they're cut, they almost seem to put together a performance that would justify them staying, but then they get cut anyway. But based off of the decision by Dan Campbell and that coaching staff, that might not be the case if they're willing to pull who they are probably hoping they're to be the backup quarterback early. So do you guys have any thoughts on the current quarterback 2 situation? Because it's pretty safe to say, not to tease too much on what we're about to talk about, it seems like Jared Goff's probably good at QB1. Just assume. Yeah.
So. We've been looking forward to Hooker for, I don't know, a couple of years now.
Yep, 22 draft, I think.
So for him to have not a good outing back-to-back weeks, it's a little tough to see. I thought he would be one of those guys that was going to come in and take over the reins when Goff was ready to hang up the cleats. That would give us a mobile quarterback. And he's still, got that potential. But, it's you got to show me now. Yeah. That's the whole thing. But one little side note I would like to say, if Atlanta doesn't cut that referee that didn't pick off that ball, then I don't know what's up with there.
It was pretty bad ball tracking. It seemed like he could have made a play on that.
He should have made a play. So. I mean, that's on Arthur Frank. He needs to, is he still alive?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I think, just the point that he was in position to make a play, you got to give him some credit for that.
Yes,
you got to get your head around and be ready for that ball.
Yeah, I believe, that was to Meeks, right?
That was the deep shot to Meeks right away. Pretty much second or third play of the drive for Kyle Allen. Yeah, same thing with Hendon Hooker. I know that there was a lot of excitement when he got drafted. Kind of the surprise of it that happened, and then everybody said, "Okay, here's that quarterback that could be like that Lamar Jackson type, a mobile quarterback, throw on the run, give us some excitement, it's a different angle." Or something different for the defense to think about if something were to happen to Jared Goff. But, every time he's in there, it just seems like it's the same issue over and over again. The processing doesn't seem to be there. It seems to be one read and tuck and go. If there's any pressure around him, he gets skittish. He doesn't seem to reset his feet. So if you move him off of his mark right away, he's going to be the play's going to be blown up, and it's either going to be he's going to rush and he'll be able to make some yards. He's definitely got the mobility for that. Or most often what happens is, things start to collapse around him and he gets hit. And unfortunately, we saw in this game, that ball security comes out and 2 fumbles, 2 lost. and then he gets the hook, because the game before, Campbell was saying we can't have turnovers. That's the one thing we can't abide by, and he he put his money where his mouth was, because like you said, it's always you get one half and the other quarterback gets the other half, but in this case, Campbell decided we just can't do it. We need to evaluate too many other things, and we cannot have a quarterback in there that's going to turn over the ball. So Kyle Allen gets in there, shows some moxie and some poise, and drives them down for those 17 points. All 17 points are Kyle Allen points. There's no Hendon Hooker points for the whole preseason, I don't think, at this point. So it is disappointing. It's not over. I think he's still got a chance to prove things, and maybe it is a situation where the Lions say, we've made this investment, we're going to stick with it, even if Kyle Allen seems to be outperforming him right now, we're going to stick with our investment and go there. So we'll see, but certainly discouraging couple of performances so far from Hendon.
Yeah, I would say I agree. I don't think the ship has sailed for him yet, but I think it's safe to say if we don't see any type of improvement over these last two preseason games, I would say it's pretty safe to say they're ready to move on from Hendon Hooker as a potential backup. But yeah, no, I was happy with how Kyle Allen played. I was a big fan of them drafting Hendon Hooker. I mean, he was a first-round talent going into that year until his ACL injury. But yeah, so enough on the quarterback situation. Let's go to our rushing game. So we did not rush. We had a couple people rush for yards. Hendon Hooker was our second leading rusher with 27 yards. And Craig Reynolds got a couple rushes in, but generally, Craig doesn't break too much. Do you want to say it for me?
Monster hit that he took and went off
Out
the
of the
side, and
backfield.
then he got right back in.
Blame that one on Hooker too.
Yeah. Yeah, but put a hospital ball out there. That's something you don't see Jared Goff do too much.
Yeah.
But, once again, that can come with experience. Hendon Hooker his talent is really in how far he can throw. But in those instances, the Lions offense, their strength really on the passing game is how clinical of route runners their team is, as well as the hands on their team, right? So they like to attack that kind of more of a West Coast style, right? They want to use the run to set up the pass, use up small, short passes to set up good runs, use play action. But yeah, so I want to highlight a player specifically because obviously we're not going to see Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. I think their jobs are pretty set, arguably the best backfield in football. But I actually don't know the guy's first name. Jacob, great name. Sailors, 25-year-old running back. He had a drive.
He had that whole drive was him, wasn't it?
Yeah, so, I mean, if you look at the stats, right,
for the touchdown.
9 carries for 35 yards and 3.9 averaging. Pretty unimpressive stats, but he had a couple, runs he pushed through players. He had some, he got a couple first downs there to help set up that touchdown pass to Meeks, which, we'll talk about shortly. But other than that, Jabari Small got a couple rushes, didn't do too great. Kyle Allen obviously had a couple scrambles, and Hendon Hooker scrambles as well. But yeah, so we didn't see a lot of rushing that game. We saw a lot more from the passing game. But once again, we don't have our starting offensive line out there, which we'll talk about shortly. We'll talk about the rookies after we talk about a little bit more of the stats. But how do you guys feel? Any notes from that? I mean, it was a pretty uneventful game in terms of rushing attack. Just couldn't really get too much going.
Yeah, I mean, for the O-line to open up holes, because I don't think Sailors got really touched until he got into the secondary.
Yeah.
So, second or third string was making the holes for him, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing that I remember, Craig does what he does. He got his in there, and then I think Jabari was the second one in, just like in the first preseason game. And I thought I saw a couple of cracks where he could have taken it and bounced it outside, or he had some opportunity, just didn't quite seem to get there. And then, Sailors was really that one drive, basically, because I think he was planning on probably playing a lot in the fourth quarter too. Just consistent, again, taking what they were giving him and keeping the chains moving, and that was a much more methodical drive as far as the touchdown. The first touchdown was the explosive plays. Yep. So, the second touchdown drive was that chain moving, that thing that I think Dan Campbell really likes, chew up that clock, shove it down their throats, and I think that Sailors and the offensive line at that point was a big part of that.
Yeah, and I think, you bring up chewing up clock, right? It's an archaic thought of football, but it proves true to this day, right? Defense wins championships, and controlling the clock controls the game. My dad, Steve, does not like that. He wants to see big passes every play, which, in his defense, very exciting. It's pretty cool. But at the same time, knowing that the Lions offense can do that, and that's how a lot of times how they win games is just getting those yards, getting those first downs, methodically just slicing apart a defense, and then either punching it in with Montgomery or Gibbs, or, having Amon-Ra St. Brown just put somebody on their butt and then just walk in the end zone is pretty sick. So receiving, so I would say ultimately rushing game was a little uneventful, but I think we care a little less when we know who's really going to be rushing the ball, right? I do think Craig Reynolds the Sailors guy has an argument to maybe compete for that running back 3 spot. Obviously, we have, a third-round pick? Was it third or fourth-round pick with Vaki?
He was, they moved him. They moved up to get him in the 4th round, right? Because
regardless, he was the 4th guy drafted last season, same draft as Terrion Arnold, and he's a really interesting utility guy. But I know he's nursing an injury right now, which is why we didn't see him.
He was back at practice today, I believe.
That's great. So that's fantastic. But so receiving, receiving, we saw some really great plays from people. Obviously, we saw Meeks get a touchdown on the goal line, which was pretty great on that drive. We were talking about that more methodical drive, but then also catch a 50-yard bomb from Kyle Allen, almost intercepted by the zebra out there in center field. And then we had Ronnie Bell with a couple nice big catches. Obviously, everyone's favorite player, Tom Kennedy, with 2 catches for 14 yards. We all love Tom Kennedy. And then some third-round pick from, Hillsdale College, Isaac Tesla, Coleslaw, Optimus Prime.
Somebody suggested ice cream as well, since he's from Hudsonville.
Hudsonville ice cream. But so
he's gonna have more. More nicknames than the number on his back.
Yeah, but man, that Tesla catch was awesome. We talked about him being a hands catcher, and he really got up there and just put his hands in a spot right where the ball was that there was no way that defender could make a play on him. Did you guys notice anything from the receiving game, or any specific receiver that impressed you or maybe even disappointed you? We'll start with you, Josh.
I think you pretty much covered it.
Yep. Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Sorry, that was Delisle, yeah.
Oh yeah, just I definitely an improvement over week 1. Tesla continues to show out. Meeks got, I think, some of the opportunities that Dominic Levitt was getting in the first game, since he didn't get a chance to play. Got a chance to show his stuff, and I don't know if there's room for him here, but maybe it's a practice squad thing. Maybe he's showing out for another team.
Yeah. I think Levitt was back in practice today as well, or yesterday, I think. I know he was in pads yesterday. Same with Tim Patrick. So, defense, I don't think there's any really defensive standouts to talk about. We saw some nice hits. Rock Ya-Sin was a second leading tackler on the team.
Yeah.
Yep. So some things we like to see. Obviously, the Maurice Norris injury as well is something we talked about. But I don't really see anything too much. The last thing I'll bring up stat-wise before we talk a little bit about our rookies, because we got to see some of our other top-end rookies play this past week. Jake Bates hit a 57-yarder. Good to know that the big Michigan Panther leg is still cooking. So
apparently he's got 13 more yards to go, though.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, that's crazy. Somebody hit a 70-yarder. Yep. That's wild. Yeah. Oh my Lord. Who was that? That wasn't the Dolphins, was it?
Jaguars kicker. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but blasted it and had it. Still had a yard or 2 to go, I think.
That's crazy.
Speaking of Jaguars, in Twitter, back in the day, Faux John Madden, remember him?
John Madden, yeah.
One draft, Brad and I were at one of Wes's shows, and we were both looking at whatever. Yeah.
And I think I've heard this one before.
Yeah. Faux John Madden goes, laugh all you want, because the Jaguars had drafted a punter in round 2 or round 3. He goes, laugh all you want, but you're going to need a punter when you've got, and I forget who the quarterbacks were at the time. But
probably Blake Bortles.
I remember that. That was Brian Anger. Yeah, Cal punter, second-round pick.
That's crazy. But yeah, so I think last thing to really talk about the game, unless there's something that really stands out, is we did get to see our first-round pick, Tyleek Williams out of Ohio State, defensive tackle out of Ohio State, and Tate Ratledge, offensive guard taken out of the University of Georgia, our second-round pick. I was pretty darn impressed. Tyleek didn't make any major plays, but as a former defensive tackle myself, the value is plugging up holes, taking out 2 blockers if you can, letting the other guys make plays around you. Tate Ratledge had a couple nice blocks. He put some pros on their butts. Anything that really stands out? Obviously, they're in the trenches, so it's a less flashy position they're playing, but very important in how this team is built around.
Yeah, I think Tyleek, there's one where he tossed this dude around like a rag doll. So,
Yep.
I mean, he's built.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah, just I thought it was a good showing for both of them there. Like you said, they were highlighting them a little bit in the broadcast we were watching. So, chance to see Tyleek taking up those 2 blockers and standing tall, and Tate being able to get some pass pro sinking in. There was a couple of run plays where he got to the second level. So encouraging signs, and can't be more excited than to see some trench players really
Absolutely
ball out.
Yeah, and I think the big thing about it too is, so Ratledge was one of the best pass protectors in college football in his 3 years as a starter at Georgia, and Jared Goff, I think, was the best quarterback statistically against the blitz. But when you replace an entire interior offensive line starters, you need the best possible talent you can get your hands on. So to help protect against blitzes, stunts, getting the edge up the middle. So getting a guy like Ratledge, I was probably the most impressed with him, but it was easier for me to zero in on him than Tyleek, just because Tyleek would get on the ground, trying to take out blockers by the legs, and it was just kind of tough to follow. But
Lions on the rise, not the same old crew. Golf sling and pass is what we always knew. Sewell on the line, Hutchison with force. Campbell's got the plan, staying on. Outside the den, inside the barn. This is our time. This is our time.
But all right, so Falcons game. Obviously, we saw some good things. We saw something tragic, but once again, thankfully on the up and up. This past week, the Lions come back home to Meyer Performance Center in Allen Park, and they host the Miami Dolphins ahead of their preseason game this weekend, and hold some joint practices. They do it twice a year, I believe, every year, or at least as of recently. I'm going to let you guys take it away about these joint practices. Please feel free to introduce how these joint practices are going.
Josh, you want to take Wednesday? That's the fun one.
All I can say is, just I wasn't there, but seeing what everybody's been posted online. Amon-Ra, he didn't skip a beat. He leaped forward three or four octaves, whatever you want to call it. Dominated the game. Tesla, was that yesterday or today?
That was Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, that catch where he just reaches out, spins it around, and not sure where the Dolphins are this season. Obviously, everybody remembers when their coach McDaniel was going through the crowd asking for people what plays to run against. Who was that? The Patriots? No.
Yeah, I can't remember that
I
one.
think it would be the Patriots. The Patriots have had the Dolphins number for many years.
Okay, well, he was going. It was a coaching staff that didn't hire him as head coach, so he pretty much rubbed it in and destroyed him. Anyway, so what was his presser talking about Eminem? They didn't really have much to say about his team from the sounds of it. So for the Dolphins, don't know where they're at, but just seeing that kind of performance from starters, since we haven't had a chance to see that, that's awesome. Everybody, you go into that, even though it's preseason, you still kind of think, well, is this what's going to happen? But for them to basically be, levels above everybody else, and you even got a lot of the reporters saying, you got nothing to worry about. These guys are elite. That's a great sign to see. So,
Wednesday's practice, and again, there was two of them. So today's practice that happened, I haven't gotten quite as much feedback. It sounds like it was a little more even up. They were still talking about Amon-Ra making the plays. I know J-Mo caught a bomb.
Yeah, first play, I think, wasn't it? 50-yard?
Yep, and talked about it with Iffy, who he got into it a little bit after Wednesday's practice. That it was great because, again, the way that Dan Campbell likes to do it, he likes to put those first stringers out there in the joint practices, and that's where they get their work. You don't get a chance to see them in these preseason games. He wants to, control the environment, have his first stringers out there, and for all reports, again, both sides, and you look at Miami's side too, and they were in agreement. It wasn't a case where Lions beat writers are going, "Oh, the Lions, they're so awesome. The Dolphins are terrible," and then you have the Dolphins people going, "Oh, no, we were the good team, and you guys were the bad team." It was pretty universal that the Dolphins beat writers were saying, "Yeah, it was rough, and it was rough for the Dolphins defense, and they couldn't stop anybody through the air, especially Amon-Ra." Like you said, when we were talking off air, like it seemed like he had 15 catches and 460 yards and 6 touchdowns in one practice. And then on the other side, the defense, all the reports were every time that Tua would drop back, he was running for his life. And it was Hutch coming off of the edge, and it was Davenport coming off of the edge, and it was the linebackers shutting down anybody that was coming out of the backfield and dropping them for a loss. So really excited. Sorry about that. To hear that kind of hype when you're going up against another team, and that's our first chance to hear about the first
You need a sip of
the
Diet
first
Coke,
string.
man, I
Yeah.
got you. You need some
But
Diet
but yeah, and of course we're starved. We want to hear anything good, and we hear about these kind of things. It can't help but get you hyped up and ready for what's to come. And when we do get a chance to see that first string, thinking, okay, well, maybe we can do this to these other teams as well, starting with Green Bay that week 1.
And the two things I heard, I think it was from today, is they implemented the Hutch rule during the joint practice.
That's crazy.
And part 2 is the refs stopped blowing the whistle just so they could get the play off.
Yeah.
So, I mean, typical, right?
Yeah.
They're helping the other team. But
Of course. Even in
We understand
even
in
in
this
joint
case.
practice,
I know.
haven't we
Try
gone
to pick
through
off
it
one
now?
of our balls during the
Yeah.
preseason game, and now they're not blowing the whistle dead. So.
Yeah, while you guys were talking, I was also reading through some reports from today, and I think one of the best things that seems pretty that carried over from yesterday to today is the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
The consistency of the offensive line play, the consistency of the aggression of the defense, the consistency of Jared Goff, I think is really big. I think, was it yesterday, St. Brown had a nice little audio clip after joint practice. He mentioned kind of throwing a shade at the Lions defensive backs, right? Not like harmful shade, more playful shade, but it was just one of those things where these guys practice against each other every day, and at some point, you just kind of start cheating a little bit, whether intentional or not, but you're willing to make plays because you kind of learn the routes, you learn the moves, right? Mm-hmm. But then when you go against guys who you don't see every day, and although the Dolphins are probably not going to be a top team this year, I mean, let's see in the East, just from thinking,
You got the Bills.
Yeah, the Bills are going to win the East.
Yeah, Patriots are improved, but down a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean they'll be competing for a wild card spot, but there is that critique on the Dolphins that that they're a soft team. They can't play below 70-degree weather, and so it's really an interesting standpoint. Obviously, they have a pretty solid, formerly maybe the best receiver in football, in Tyreek Hill out there, as well as a great serviceable wide receiver in Jalen Waddle. And Tua honestly can throw the ball. But he's also one concussion away from potentially never playing again. So, and they got some standout players on defense. What was the guy's name?
Traded for Minka Fitzpatrick coming back.
Fitzpatrick. They got.
That was the only good clip I think I saw. Was he batted down one pass, and
Did he?
everybody's like, "Yeah," and everybody's like, "Well,
yeah." They got
show the
Bradley
clip
Chubb on the
of the next
defensive
play."
line.
Yeah, Bradley Chubb. Zach Sealer is a good defensive tackle.
He's old, but was his name Williams or Willis? What's the guy? He's a defensive tackle. I think he's still there. Trying to find his name, I can't find it. But yeah, no. So I mean, they got some players out there, but they're definitely not a Minnesota Vikings. They're definitely not a Buffalo Bills for sure. But regardless, seeing kind of it all come together after weeks and weeks of hearing that the offense is struggling to put it together, the consistency isn't there. Obviously, I think having Taylor Decker back was huge. He sounded like he had some really good reps in these joint practices. So I think bringing the unit kind of back to cohesion, right? We're getting pieces back on defense. We're starting to get some of our vets back as well. But really just hearing how well it went, I think fills us all with optimism. So,
and shout out to Taylor Decker. I don't know if you guys saw what he did with Manu after practice.
I did not see that.
He pulled him aside and kind of gave him some pointers. So true vet right there. I mean, it's That's how this team's going to consistently build, is to have that kind of stuff. So that's
Right,
good to see.
You know, for the guy that maybe they're looking for him to replace, you know, down the line there, that's pro stuff.
Yeah, I believe Decker. You can't quote me on this because I think I read this, but I think Decker is pretty comfortable ending his career as a Lion, and he's definitely on that slope heading towards the end of his career. So I do think he has a lot of love for the team. He's got a lot of love for this regime, right, with Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Sheila Hamp as well. So I do think that it is great to see that, because you hear stories of I'm trying to think of the quarterback off the top of my head. Was it Philip Rivers? No, Ryan Tannehill, very famously did not want to work with Malik Willis when he came in at Tennessee. So it's really nice to see that, because that's how you kind of build sustained excellence, right? Is you build the culture that allows your existing players and new players and players that replace each other to kind of come in and just pick up where you left off. So, but yeah.
Montgomery running through the fenced wall. St. Brown catching every single call. Playoff bound now, divisional crown. Been covering his team all around the town. Ford Field rocking crowd on their feet. Podcast popping
But yeah, so we brought up Jared Goff. We brought up the first string because that's really what we were mostly interested in, right? So can the first string put it together? This week, do you want to preview really quick, Lyle, the upcoming game this week?
Yeah, so again, they're having the joint practices. They've done that now. Tomorrow's going to be a rest day, so they're playing on Saturday afternoon. I think you can expect a lot of the similar action that you saw from the Falcons game. They haven't announced a starting quarterback as far as I know. I would think that they would flip-flop him again and potentially start Kyle Allen, but I guess it's not 100% at this point. But I think you'll see that, they will continue to evaluate that second half of the roster, trying to figure out, okay, we know who our starters are. They're generally not playing. Maybe you get a little bit more practice time or a chance for your first and second round picks. So maybe we'll get to see Tyleek. We'll get to see Ratledge again. We'll get to see Tesla continue to develop and get excited about that. But they'll still be trying to evaluate, okay, who is it that's going to keep pushing us toward, who's at that bottom of the roster that's going to be able to step in. And we saw it last year with the injuries. If you're on this roster, you're going to get a chance to play. It's just part of the NFL life these days. So, trying to figure out, all right, can we, if we're going to Al-Qadim Muhammad on the edge, and if Nate Lynn is still showing and flashing the way that he is, what if we put him in these situations? How much versatility can they have? What can they do? Secondary. We lost a couple more. I heard that my favorite whipping boy, DiCaprio Boodle, is on the injured reserve list now. So Nick Whiteside stepping up. What can you do with an increased workload here? How can you handle it? Rotating some of those offensive players, defensive players. So there's always something to look for. I don't know. When it comes to the game itself, how it's going to go. We've seen kind of different ends of the spectrum between the first and second game, so every game is something into itself. I would like to see, I think we mentioned it a little earlier, Sione Vaki get a chance to get in there and play.
You should get some reps based on being in practice today.
Yeah, a couple other plays. Like you said, Lovett coming back, and what can he do? Jackson Meeks, can he step up again? So there's definitely some stuff to watch here this week, and it will affect the roster, so I'm excited to see that.
What's the cut number after this one? Do you remember?
I'd have to look that up, and I can give you a number here in a moment. But hey, I have a Brad style, not so breaking news, because this was posted 9 hours ago, but I just saw it right now. From Danny Rogers. We love Danny Rogers. She's great. The Lions tight end Sam Laporta dealing with an injury and will be down for a couple days. I heard he had a pretty darn good joint practice yesterday, specifically in the running game, just blocking his butt off. So hopefully that's pretty simple.
From what I read, it pretty much is. There's nothing much
soreness,
to it, but I mean, it's one of those things you probably just don't want to take a chance with. So.
Yeah, so no, for sure. Anything else to add, Josh, about this preseason game coming up?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's the first home game for us. It's going to be I mean, for a preseason game, I don't know if it's sold out or not. I did kind of look to see if there's tickets available in our section. There's like one of them going for $155.
Wow.
Yeah, for a preseason
game.
Yeah. So I think the fans are going to be there. I know I'm going to be there. I'm probably not going to lose my voice just because it's a preseason game and have to get the pipes,
Yeah, and you got to record next week anyway.
Yeah. So, but we'll try to get
a little honey, a little lemon.
Yeah, try to get you some clips from that. We're still fine tuning this thing to try to get great content, and we'll see what we can do there. But excited to get back to our second home.
Absolutely. All right,
out of the barn and into the den.
Into the den, yeah.
Exactly.
So we're going reversey.
Una
reverse it.
It's not quite a a split home, right? We get equal time, right? We get equal. We get equal both of our parents, right? I mean, so the barn and the barn.
I think
the
the question is what's the freebie that's going to be handed out?
That's true. Well, I know a couple Takachiks who care about that sometimes more than the actual game. So
that and the programs.
So I guess at least according to AI Overview on Google, NFL roster cutdown days will be in late August. Exact date is to be determined.
I think it's after every preseason game they have to go down a number. I just don't remember what they are.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out.
You got like 90, 80, 70.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it starts with 90, and you obviously get it to 53. So I can't find.
Although with what's been happening with us, I think they need to bump that number up to at least 60.
I feel like it. It sounds like from some of the reporting, and again, watching a lot of the Miami reports, sounds like they've been dealing with an injury bug a lot too.
Well,
they were complaining about some of those things.
Yeah, throwing an extra game on the season is great for us fans, but it's wear and tear on them. Let's increase it to 6, 7.
Wait until King Raj comes down with that 18th game.
Oh, I know.
I mean, you kind of see it with baseball too, right? I mean, you don't see pitchers throw complete games almost ever anymore.
Right.
They have to be so far ahead in their pitch counts.
Oh, yeah.
Or behind, I guess, technically. Just less pitches, right? Yeah. Because not to talk about the Tigers for a second, but Skubal had that complete game. He ended the day throwing 98 pitches.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Barely over 10 pitches an inning is insane.
Yeah,
my God.
High schoolers are limited to 105.
Yeah. So.
And that's a 7-inning game.
Yeah. It's crazy. But yeah, so I think, I'm optimistic about this weekend. Obviously, by the time this airs, it doesn't really matter. I won't be able to unfortunately watch most of the game. Neither will Lyle, just because we'll be kind of busy throwing a surprise for someone special in all of our lives. But regardless, do you guys have a prediction? Obviously, doing a score prediction during preseason, I say it every week that we've been recording this. It's kind of hard to do. I'm assuming the Lions are probably, honestly, even in preseason, maybe a 3.5-point favorite on the sports books. Just because.
Well, if we get the play that we got from Allen last week, then I don't see any question of us putting up at least 2 touchdowns over them. Yeah.
What do you think, Lau?
Yeah, just from the sounds of, again, going off a joint practice, it wasn't just the first string that was dominating. From what it sounded like, second string picked off Zach Wilson like 3 times in a row. Third string was very sticky on their receivers. They're not going to be throwing Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle out there. So I have a good feeling that this is going to be a comfortable Lions win. You never know exactly how it's going to go, but I'm going to say somewhere, 27-13, some 2-touchdown win sounds about right.
Yeah, at least according to ESPN Sportsbook. Ooh. Actually, the Miami Dolphins are a 2.5-point favorite.
Well, they must be thinking that they're going to be
starting. Oh, no, sorry.
I was going to say, they're
1.5 points. I keep ESPN post their sportsbook weird because they have the open bets, and so that's what I keep reading. But yeah, 1.5-point favorite. Total points 37.5. I'm honestly not really expecting a really high scoring game because they're not going to want to play Tua. Zach Wilson sounds like he did pretty poor against the second and third team on the Lions. But yeah, so I mean.
They're going to probably want to change that.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, so yeah, I think regardless, we saw some great things last week prior to a pretty tragic ending. We're hearing about some incredible things happening this week, which shouldn't be all that surprising with how well this team played last year, and considering that, they lost some important pieces, but they added some other talent and generally are keeping most of the core together, so it shouldn't be all that surprising. But regardless, I think a lot to look forward to this weekend, a lot to look forward to this season. We'll be back for one more preseason episode prior to our week 1 against the Packers.
Inside the barn, this is our town, this is our turn. No more losses, no more pain. Detroit Lions breaking the chain. Outside the den, inside the barn, Motor City Fire.
All right, so we got a little special segment here. Josh, if you want to introduce what exactly we'll be doing.
Okay, to kind of keep in step with Jeff Daniels, Peyton Manning, for our watch parties, we are actually going to start doing the whiskey bathtub, not the full one. We got a little tiny one and little helmets, and we'll say the incantation from the Tobin Spirit Guide to kind of keep that ball rolling. But one thing, that was just for the Lions in general, but we need to do something about these injuries. I don't know what it is. I think Dan Skipper might have hit on it the other day when he said, whoever's got the voodoo doll, take the pin out. So this is what we're going to do. We've got
Don't pull the cord out now, Josh.
got Rory, and we got the Bears. So
You have to admit, Rory looks a lot more fearsome than this little guy here.
yeah, I don't.
That's Staley.
Staley.
Staley, the Bear.
Do I care?
So I shall read the Jeff Daniels-esque Tobin Spirit Guide.
Really quick, just to protect us, Josh. Just
Yes.
hit a little.
This is
one
all
real
in
quick.
this is all in humor. We don't really believe this, but
No.
so anyways, I have. You want to hold this
We're
guy
good.
up here? Yeah, all right.
I'm good. I
We
think
literally just said nothing was gonna.
Yeah,
I know.
And you're about to ready to
I know.
pass out.
I know. I was about to live my Bills Mafia dream right there.
Yeah.
Go through the table.
And so it's, I have made you, and your name is Staley the Bear. You shall receive the negative energy sent by whoever the Lions fan voodoo curse doll is in my place. Take it out, Rory. Into the bear. So,
The bear got the toothpick.
the toothpick or the pin or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Take
Dan,
that, Ben Johnson.
Skip,
Yeah, Benedict Johnson over here.
Skip, you called it. We have reversed it. Look who's standing up tall.
Yeah,
Lions.
woo, go Lions, one pride, baby.
So that's our X Factor segment of the week.
All right, awesome.
From 0 wins to playoff dreams, nothing in between, just blood and schemes. The work we put week after week. Now Lions roar when others.
All right, so as we wind down this episode, and Staley stands there with a big ol' javelin in his back. Any final thoughts about this Detroit Lions team this upcoming season? Either of you want to share with our audience?
Come back to me for a second. I'll have to think about that.
All right, don't worry, we'll edit right to Lyle. It's okay.
Yeah. And I'm kind of at this point, we're in that mid-preseason mode here where, okay, I've gotten the taste. I got the preseason. You get all hyped about it, but I'm just ready for the season, man.
And you hit on it, Lyle, because let's be honest. I say it all the time. We don't care about preseason. We want to see our players be healthy. We want to hear good things in training camp, and it feels like this week that's finally all coming together. So, as you said, I'm just ready for this football season. I'm tired of preseason. We didn't need to play a fourth game. Maybe some of those guys on the roster trying to get that roster spot needed to, but we as fans are just ready to start, and we cannot wait. So, thank you, everybody. This was Outside the Den. Inside the Barn, Episode 3. Hope you guys have a good one. Thanks for watching. That's Josh. This is Lyle. I'm Jake. One Pride. Go Lions. We'll see you next week.
Podcast over. Signing off tonight. Wyatt Intimation. Everything's alright. decided right tonight. Lions Nation, everything's alright.